So now we'll begin with our third panel of the day. And the topic will be role of early childhood educators in preparing a multicultural learning environment, glance on the roadmap of growth. Gracing this panel, I would like to invite Rashmi P. Singh, CEO, Poddar Brio International School, Badlapur, as moderator. Can we have a round of applause for ma'am, please? Next, we have Vishakha Gupta, Principal, Bacon High School and Junior College, Pune. A big round of applause, please. Dr. Bindu Saini, Principal, SB Patil Public School, Pune. Swati Aru, Principal, Blossom Public School, Pune. A big round of applause for ma'am. Harshad Tathed, Academic Head, Priyadarshani School, Pimpri-Chinchwad. Can we have a big round of applause for this after-lunch panel discussion? Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mrs. Rashmi. I am the principal and CEO of Poddar Brio International School. The school is located at Badlapur East in Thane district. So I've come all the way with a 4-hour journey along with me. I've just reached. I'm lucky to be on time here. And I welcome my panel members. Today, this afternoon, I would be moderating our discussion. Our discussion is on the role of the early childhood educators with respect to the multicultural environment, its development in a classroom. Well, the multicultural environment, I am sure all of us are a part of. We are very lucky to have this particular word multicultural because we know what it is. As educators, as students, as individuals, we've been living in this environment where we come across people from different ethnic groups, different religions, different geographical locations, different life experiences, different economic backgrounds, and various differences. So we are a part of it. That's in our blood is what I want to tell. But when it comes to a classroom, an environment where these young children, especially when they look up to us, as we being the role model, the education platform for them, I strongly feel that we, particularly the educators, we have to be very, very eminently planning. We have to be planning our activities, our classroom environment in such a manner which should bring in the wholesome development in these children. When I say wholesome development, I mean the time span which these children have for connecting their neurons, the free moving neurons in their mind. The time span within which they connect is 6 years. With all the positive life experiences, the reinforcement, the positive ones in the classroom, that sets up their memory. And with this positive memory, they become the strong future learners. It sets up a good background to them so that they become good learners in future. So our responsibility is that we should be catering to their need as required so that these children are not left behind with respect to anything. So with this, I take forward my discussion to my panel members. My first question, I would be asking in a random manner. So I believe my panel members are prepared and they'll forgive me for that. So Ms. Swati Aru, ma'am, can I ask you this question? What are the concrete strategies for changing early childhood practices to a more inclusive pedagogy?
Good afternoon all, and thank you organizers for having me on this panel. To begin with, I think we need to speak a little about multicultural environment, learning environment we need to provide. As the society is growing, The students are faced to diversity and it's on the rise. For this reason, multicultural learning environment is essential for these students because as a child, he is lost in an ocean of different cultures, traditions. As a teacher, it's a responsibility of the teacher we would be calling her as facilitator of learning instead of teacher. She's there to facilitate the child's learning in different ways. First and foremost, we can have approaches like collaborative approach is one which is essential for a child because while working collaboratively, while learning collaboratively, she is interacting with different students from various backgrounds, which helps them to get at par with the remaining students and learning enhances. It's a better way of learning. There can be reflective approach as well, where the child is made to reflect the learnings in different ways. It can be representation, it can be discussions. As per the child's liking, she again represents the learning. And that is a reflective approach which helps the child again to be a better learner. Inquiry approach is another way where the teacher can pose questions to the child because questioning is another best way where learning can happen. And the child in her way come up with the answers and the conceptual learning happens over there. These are a few approaches which we can adopt to bring about multicultural learning environment. Apart from this, there are different ways like teachers can invite representatives from the society belonging to different cultures to address the children, where children can relate because they have seen this different culture. The projects can be submitted by the student in her mother tongue, mother language, where the representation is apt. Parents can help the child to represent, to prepare the project. Child can present the project because it has been done in the mother language. This can also be one way. And through all this, our aim is to create an empathetic environment and empathetic children, which is very, very important. Through this, their self-confidence increases. They are better communicators. The communicating skill also develops because they know. Now, communication doesn't mean the language. It is in a way in which a person can make the other person understand what she wants to say, which is really very important. It's not only the language. So this definitely helps children to develop their communication skills, which is one essential skill of the 21st century learner. Collaboration is also an essential skill which needs to be developed. And yes, communication, very, very, very important. So all these aspects will definitely help children to be the better, best learners. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I strongly feel being a part of any culture, any ethnic group, any religion is never a choice. So the most important thing which I feel, every child, when it is the initial formative years of the child should be made, the child should rather feel respected everywhere by everyone. So that's one of the most important things. Moreover, I also feel instead of letting the child understand, okay, this is your class environment, this is what you have to learn, these are the policies, let us also understand what background the child has come from. One instance I will share. There was a child, she never had an eye contact with the teacher. So the teacher was very surprised that not only with one teacher, she never had an eye contact with the other teachers and the fellow friends. So then the other day, the teacher invited the parent in the classroom and she saw the interaction between the child and the parent. And she got her answer. So that is how they live at home. Nobody sees at the eye level. So we also need to understand, going at the background of the child, what kind of experiences the child carries. And accordingly, we need to modify our classroom environment. Thank you, ma'am. So my next question goes to Mr. Harshad. Sir, the question is, how does the quality of learning environment affect the student learning differences?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, a classroom, if you see, is a mixture of a child at 10% and 100%. So, we have such diverse classrooms, everywhere around India, because there are huge learning gaps, because the environment at home is different and the environment in school is different at times. And what NEP has done is it has tried to bridge this gap of environment at home and school, making the school more home friendly and the teachers more open to the children's learning outcomes. Now, quality per se of education in early childhood is from 0 to 7 years, the 97% of the brain of the child develops. That is how the creativity part of the child will be lost or maintained forward. Now it is into the hands of the teachers and the educators that how you nurture the individuality of the child. Because whatever we have been seeing until now is rote learning, and whatever we have gone through, or our own educational beliefs have been challenged by this dogma of how we change things for them now, because there's a lot of exposure. Now a child is exposed to a lot of surroundings at a very young age. We also have cases where the overuse of technology has impacted in such a manner that if the mobile is on, then only the child is having food. So we need to make and understand and set boundaries for the child as well, that wherein the technology is driving his or her life. Because just giving the mobile into the hands of the children is not going to bring in learning. How are we measuring it? How are we understanding what the child is learning every day? Instead of asking him, what will you do in the future, or what did you learn at school today, we can ask him, how did you feel today? It will make so much difference. Earlier in the morning, we were talking about how assessment would be abolished. That will be the best thing for the children. So assessing every day as an experience and bringing in different sharing experiences every day in the classroom through opening circles, through the child opening up about different things in the classroom will help in a variety of ways to bring the diversity and the multiculturalism in the classroom. Now, the quality of these things is measured in terms of the diversity that our country has. We Indians are very well known to adapt to any language. Like, we are the only country which a child has already learned 4 or 5 languages in his childhood. And that is the reason that the mathematics, science or history is very simpler for us. Like, we are very adaptive because our neighbors are different, so we learn that language. At home, we have a different language. At school, we have a different language. So this bilingualism helps the children to, comprehend and learn and collaborate. But when the child has a difference, or when the environment is not good in the classroom, so what the teacher does in that moment is very important to understand. Like, if there is a whole problem that is being discussed every day in the morning meeting of the preschool or the primary children, I believe that n number of solutions can come and n number of possibilities can come. And rather you being in control, you become a listener and you become a facilitator. I think that is what has been said. So that's what is the journey now, from having the remote in your hands to passing the baton in form of children. Like, once a month, if we plan, one day will be planned by children, and you will be amazed at the amount of things that will come out in that one day, wherein children are leading the discussions and everything. It will be totally marvelous. Same thing we can do it at home. Like, one vacation or one trip, if a child plans, he will decide which bus route or something we are going to take. Then that changes everything. A lot of exposure from the parents and the teachers' hands as well. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, sir, for the valuable thought, and it is quite thought-provoking to understand the fact which you just said, abolishing the assessment and getting the assessments in the regular form of learning. That was really nice to hear that. See, frankly speaking, sir, I feel, as you said, right up to 7 years of age, somewhere 6 years, 7 years, these children, for all the life experiences that they have, their brain wiring gets completed. their experiences of life, and based on the experiences, their further application to new situation, similar situation that comes into the picture. So it's very important that children have a positive, a positive thought about everything that they come across with experience. With that, of course, I would like to share with, one of the important quotes of Einstein, not the exact words, but he has said, how much ever stories you could tell to children, tell the children, stories as regular as you can to build on to their life experiences. So with this, I take up to the next question. Ma'am, Dr. Bindu, ma'am. The question is, how can the pedagogy of diversity be implemented in early childhood education?
Yes, good afternoon, my humble pranam to everyone. I think all are tired, sleepy after having nice lunch. Let's start with an activity. Okay, draw up an image, a picture of a house. Just 30 seconds. 30 seconds we have, everyone. In case you are not able to participate in that, it's perfectly okay. It's absolutely a flexible room. This is what I want to convey through this particular thing. Okay, so how many of us have drawn the house with those two walls and a conical ceiling or a roof? And this is the problem. We have been wired, we have been taught this way. मुझे एक बात बताइए, कितने के घर ऐसे हैं? How many of us live in this kind of house? How many of us have the houses where only there are 1 or 2 windows? Yeah, even the villages don't have. Absolutely right. So you got my point right. On this note, ma'am, I'll start the discussion. See, early childhood is such a time, generally 0 to 7 years, 8 years when we talk about. This is the most receptive period. This is the period when children make emotional connects. When children go for imagination, they make stories. They create scenes also in the classroom or maybe at home as well. And family definitely becomes the first teacher for the child. But what is our role as educators? When we talk about pedagogy or diversity or diverse pedagogy, I'll be just taking you through for next 5 minutes only I would need. But let us understand what is our role as educators. When we talk about our own roles, we are probably having the power to empower these young minds. 0 to 8 years, generally it is said, whatever opportunities, whatever exposures we give these children, they love to take part in that and it stays permanently in their brains. Sometimes we call mind as well, though there is no organ as such, mind, it's a psychological term. And when these things happen and we deprive children of the opportunities, we are actually making them miss on the windows of opportunities. If these windows are closed in the initial stages, believe me, my dear friends, it is always closed. I'm not saying that learning will not happen. Learning will happen. Even we all are learning at this stage. But the exposure, the reception, what they need to get at that age, that would probably be little less. So, talking about the role of educators and how teachers, how educators manage these classrooms, that is another question mark. We want a typical classroom where 30, 40 children are seated. We teachers want to train them, give instructions, and they are supposed to follow the instructions given by we educators. But pedagogy is not just teaching learning. It involves practically everything. The whole transaction of the curriculum, how a teacher walks in the class, how a teacher takes a lesson in the class, or an educator. I will not use the word teacher basically because we are not teachers. How assessment happens, whatever has been taught to children, no written papers. I'm not focusing on written papers over here. How the feedback is obtained from these learners and how we teachers, we educators improvise on that. So we need to remember few principles when we are in the classroom, how the pedagogy can be modified. First, ma'am has rightly said, Swati ma'am, about communication. Communication is very important. Please ask yourself, when we go to the classroom, how much do we talk and how much do children talk? I think 70 to 80% we educators talk in the classroom. And only 20 to 30% students are permitted. And then we are expecting, why children are not talking? Why is child not responding? Why a child doesn't speak in English? You know, another over-ambitious requirement of certain parents and teachers, or even educators sometimes. So communication is, I think now let us reverse it. This is the first change I request through this platform to all educators. Let us change this pedagogy. Let children speak 70 to 80%. We should restrict ourselves to 20 to 30%. Because when we keep on talking continuously, we always try to or tend to send message that our talks, our thoughts, our ideas are more important than theirs, the one who's listening. So let us change that first of all. And with that, listening. Heartfelt listening, not just for the sake of hearing. Lot of difference between hearing and listening. So let us work on that. I'm including myself in that as well when I say let's work together towards it. Second important thing is the cultural awareness, the sensitivity. We need to know what is our culture. We need to understand what is the culture of my fellow classmate who's sitting next to me. What is my teacher? Which background he or she is from, my educator, how is she going to help me in that? So that is very important. We talk about cultural sensitivity, cultural awareness, and then finally the context. Context is another area which I feel we need to add in our pedagogy. Once I got an opportunity to observe one of the lessons of one of my previous school's teachers, and teacher was teaching about Kacha house and Pakka house in EVS, I think grade 1. And the statement was, Kacha house is made up of straw and mud, and Pakka house is made up of bricks, cement, and so on. So what is the significance of these two statements? She says, Pakka house is a stable one. It stays, it can bear all kind of weather. But Kacha house is Kacha because it can be flown away with the strong wind or storm. A child who was sitting next to another child who was from the very influential background, this child was admitted under RTE. He said, ma'am, to mera ghar ud jayega kya? Very innocent question, but very logical. Because this child used to stay in a Kacha house which was made up of straw. I'm taking example from the classroom only just to understand and relate how we can work towards these things. So context is very important. We educators just can't go to the class and teach whatever is given in the textbook. Textbook is just a tool. Textbook is not everything. It is not a guideline or a lesson plan for all of us. Third important thing ma'am has already spoken about, and sir has also talked about the collaboration and group projects working together. When they work together, they keep on sharing their thoughts, ideas with their classmates. Now, if I know a particular language and 4 of my classmates, they know other languages, I'm sure they'll be talking in their own language sometimes as well. So this collaboration is going to help us. It will help us in bringing cooperation and even healthy competition. So these activities must be included in the classroom, wherein collaboration should be the base of any kind of learning. Another area I feel is constructivism. Constructivism is a buzzword. Many a times we talk about it without realizing what does it mean. It talks about 5 E's. It starts from engaging to evaluating. Engage, explore, experiment, evaluate, etc., etc. So engagement is very important in the classroom. Don't give them tasks yourself. Let them design the tasks. At times we feel children are too young to understand what are they going to do, what are they going to decide for themselves. But believe me, my friends, they are able to decide when they can make their own classroom rules. Why can't they do this? So give them storytelling activities, give them activities, toy-based pedagogies you use in the classroom. Give them a situation, let them talk about a situation. And I'm sure they'll come up with a beautiful expression. Let them exchange a thought, an idea. How do you welcome your relatives and guests at home? Everyone will speak in one's own language. So multilingualism will come into picture. This is how the cultural sharing happens. Another area we can have very healthy, congenial kind of classroom, environment. The environment which provides a lot of physical, mental, social, emotional support and security to these children. When they are confident, they are sure that my classroom is the best place for me. My educator, my teacher, my facilitator is there to support me. Believe me, half the battle is won at that time. And finally, the continuous professional development. Please do not do it because CBSE or any governing body asks for it. Have lot of trainings, lot of interactions, quality circles within the classroom and with the teachers as well, so that we understand what is expected with the changing paradigm of the education. How NEP 2020 is going to bring in the change when they talk about use vernacular language, at least for pre-primary and primary level, which is called the foundational stage and then preparatory stage. So I think these are the areas, if we modify in the classrooms, I'm sure the teaching learning is going to be very, very effective. Then it is not just a teaching learning, it is more of fun and lifelong process. Thank you so much.
I would like to add on here, the previous panel discussion, we had discussion regarding the B.Ed course, which does not provide the necessity for teachers training. Rather, I would say we are not training teachers for the hour now. B.Ed remains as it was 20, 30 years ago. The course has not changed. That's the reason I agree with ma'am. We need these professional development courses for teachers, where teachers are trained for inquiry-based approach, collaborative. If you ask a teacher, she won't know what inquiry-based approach is, what research method is. This is another best way where learning happens the right way, where the topic is given to the child, give the child some time to research. They will research it their way. They may use technology. They may communicate with each other, find out, gather information, and they come to class and present it back. So, but teachers are not aware of these approaches. So this professional development is very, very important.
Correct, correct.
It is the hour of the necessity.
Yeah.
It has become a necessity now to conduct professional development trainings for teachers. And as ma'am rightly said, it's not because CBSE is asking us to do it. It is because our children need it. Our facilitators are to be developed. We don't want teachers who are there to teach children. We want our teachers to be facilitators to help them learn.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I wish to add one point over here. The activity what we started in the beginning, we had in the beginning. See, through that, I just thought of why can't we have cognitive flexibility among our children? We can have cognitive flexibility. I'll give you one simple example. Suppose you are following the GPS and you are supposed to travel straight on a road, but there is some traffic jam, bad congestion is there. What are you going to do? You will find another way. You will go to another route or divert your vehicle to another route. This is what our children need. Don't make them a focused or a fixed kind of learners, those who are absolutely convergent. Tell them to become divergent thinkers, problem solvers, so that they can bring in the creativity. And role of educators is very, very important, because without professional development, we will not understand what is expected from us, the we educators. Thank you so much.
Very much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Well, I would like to add one point here. We all need to ponder. I'm sure we must have come across the fact that when you observe a child at a rural section or rural school, rural area, if you have observed the father doing the agricultural activities, the young daughter, she takes the food for the father. She packs the food, she takes the food to the father, father has the food, she comes back. So do we expect the same with our children of preschool or grade 1? We don't expect that. We pack their food and we pack their tiffin boxes. So why this difference in the maturity? As ma'am rightly said in the beginning when she was talking about the activities, we are here, we draw the triangles and the cones here. We are into a restrictive environment, or rather we need to open up. We need to give an exposure to our children where the children experience, the nature.
It's always guided.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, one small thing, as ma'am was doing the activity, I got motivated. So, dear listeners, do we all know the reason why we need to have a deep breathing? You must have come across the fact that people should deep breathe. So what is the reason of deep breathing? Can any of you tell me? Why should we deep breathe? Conscious breathing. Absolutely. Just breathe. Okay, so we need to be conscious. Of course, that's a good point. Any other point?
Otherwise, we are always distracted.
We are distracted.
Taking a deep breath, we bring ourselves back to ourselves, our mind back to ourselves.
Okay, so yes, so it's a concentration. All right. Any other answer?
Keep our body active, we need more oxygen because the oxygen carrying cells, RBCs, gets the oxygen.
Right. So that's.
Corner of the cell.
Well, I'm also from a science background. Your answer connects to me. The more scientific aspect to this answer is, we breathe hardly 10 to 20% of our lung capacity.
Yeah.
Our lungs are basically shrinking. As rightly said by ma'am, the oxygen carrying capacity of our blood vessels are decreasing because less of oxygen. Less of oxygen, less supply to the brain. The less thinking capacity, not just in us, but in our children as well. So our children need to be taught the art of deep breathing. And yes, as ma'am said, concentration and conscious. You should be conscious that we are deep breathing, so that it is a deep breathing activity on forever. And we are healthy and fit forever. And we are rightly thinking, actively thinking, and we are active all the time. And we are increasing the capacity of our lungs. So that is one of the reasons of deep breathing. All these other aspects follow it, but the main reason is to stay fit, stay healthy. All lung-related and breath-related diseases go away from our body. So that's one of it. Thank you, ma'am. So I got motivated, so I did this one thing. All right, my next question goes to Vishakha, ma'am, Vishakha Gupta, ma'am. The question is, how can the ethnic background of children be turned as an advantage for better language acquisition?
Thank you, ma'am, for the question. Good afternoon to the esteemed gathering. Ma'am has made my work really easy. Why? Because, all right, my question to the audience. How many remember the poetry or the poem that you had done in childhood? Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star? Or Johnny, Johnny? Machli jal ki rani hai? Aire Aire Pausa? Maharashtrians, all right. How many remember a poetry out of class 9 or 10? Hindi, English, complete. Why? One or two? But not the others. Can anybody tell me the reason why? You enjoyed. You participated. It was fun. Right? You were interacting with each other. You weren't studying. But in 9th standard or 10th standard, you were told, sit down. I'll give you the meaning. Note down. This is what it means. This is what, according to the poet, nobody asked the child what you understand. What you understand out of the poem. Right? I use British English, which is why I call it poem. Americans call it poem. Right? I still use British English. All right. So then, this is the problem. We provide things to the children on the platter, which is why learning reduces. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember, but I do and I understand. And that is what Confucius said. And which is what we need to remember with our children now. Right? With this diversity already available to us, because of the movement of people all across the country, our classrooms have a mixed bag. Whenever we enter our schools or whenever we enter our classes, we see a mixed bag. It is so easy to include this ethnic diversity of children into their learning. Okay, what is, again, I believe in a lot of activity. What is a matchstick called in Marathi? Easy for some. Yes, ma'am. Okay, Kadichi peti. What is it called in Hindi? Matches or matches ki dibbi? Diya salai ki dibbi? Matchbox? 4 answers I had in this room. Katri, catchy, scissor, 3 answers that I know. Right? If we do this in our classrooms, believe me, the child would learn so many things at a time. And it will be playway. So many languages the child would learn at a time. Can I set up a market in the class? Yes. When I shifted to Maharashtra, I did not know what was batata. I used Reliance. I saw the label there. I said, ye aloo hai, upar batata likha hai. So I related potato, batata, aloo. That was my learning. So why can't we do this for our children? If we ask the children, what is this particular product called in your language, and we put it on the labels rather than say, yaad karo. We don't tell them, learn it up. We put it up on the labels out there. And when the children visit that market that we have set up, there is an automatic learning. Because they understand that all these names are for potato. All these names are for the matchstick or the matchbox. We are not instructing them. We have to make things play way. Can we include parents? I, in my school, have a parent participation program. I involve parents. So if there is a parent who's from South India, and South Indians love to be either great singers or dancers. They still have that tradition of learning how to sing or dance. Can I have them come to class and teach a few steps to the children? A dancing session, but I have introduced that ethnic diversity out there. I can have those days, the special days. I can tell children what is 14th January celebrated as. What is it? What do you call it, ma'am?
Makar Sankranti.
What do you call it, ma'am?
Sankranti.
Okay.
In Punjabi, Sagrant.
Okay. Pongal, Lodi, but all 14th January. Are we teaching them that ethnic diversity? Yes, we are. Yes. Uttarayan. So देखिए यहीं पे हमें answers मिल रहे हैं. We as, adult educators are giving those answers. Children will be more excited. We basically have to touch that excitement of the children. And believe me, not only at the nascent stage, but also at the senior stage. You get them interested and you will get work out of them yourself. You will not have to force them into things. Yesterday I just completed it was complete, it wasn't finished. I hope we understand the difference between complete and finished. I ended with my annual concert and my topic was unsung warriors. So my children worked on the history aspect. They dug deep to find out who are the unsung warriors. Why? Because we had to just sit with them. Let's do this. And then I started with, okay, what do you suggest? So we said, let's take up history. History, should we go with the same people? No, ma'am, let's do something different. I said, what different? See, you have to sow the seeds. We are facilitators. We are not moving out of the scene. We have to play our role, but the idea has to be portrayed in a way that it comes from them. They should feel it is not ma'am's idea, it is my idea. Our work is that to reroute things in a way where the idea is given to them, but it comes from them. Right? When we involve them, when we take ideas from them, we are actually touching on their experimental nerve. And that is what is experiential learning. They went and found out, I don't know, Bhima Bai, Bhima Devi. There were so many characters from South India, from Maharashtra. Bikaji Kama, we know very less about her. So they came up with such characters. It was a beautiful feeling to understand that children could come with such concepts. And then they sat with their teachers to develop the script and then think which song suits best along with this skit. And it was a wonderful show. All thanks to my students. So these were the senior students doing it. See, basically we have to involve. The moment we involve, and whichever ways, we'll have to decide and think of ideas from the pre-primary to the higher grades, setting up a market, involving parents, having those dances, those festivals. What do they do? What is a certain product called? Which songs do they sing? Right? As I said, Machli Jal Ki Rani hai, we all remember. Hindi. Yeah? Twinkle, twinkle, little star, English. Ale, ale, pausa, Marathi. Can we have those children singing those songs in the class? We've introduced them to that diversity and that language learning. So, we have to put on our thinking caps, reroute it through our children, and I think we'll be able to do wonders. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was great input from your end, and with ma'am's elaborate inputs that she's given, I conclude that we need to locate the common aspects which the diverse learners have in the classroom. And these common aspects should be implemented. It should be put up in the form of activities. Yet, the differences, the diversities needs to be celebrated at the same time in the classroom. That's how, when we talk about multicultural environment, the role of facilitator, the educator, is to bring about these collaborations in the classroom. Well, moving on to my next activity. So, everyone present here, I'm sure most of you must be implementing this. Why do we have the early food message from the doctors that we should have early food, maybe by 6 or 7 before sunset? Any reasons for that?
If I may answer?
Yes, I think science background could.
No, ma'am. English, purely English. All right, no science, but it is my assumption. Please tell me if I'm right. Before we sleep, the foods needs to be digested, because then the blood needs to run into the other parts of the body, because the body is at rest. And so the other parts of the body need that supply. If that supply of blood runs to the stomach for digestion, then the other parts don't get that relaxation which is required at night for the body to replenish and be ready for the next day.
Perfect. I add after that.
Well, I believe people here may not think that I'm diverting the topic to some other topics. Well, that's not the case. Here I simply want to connect to what we are discussing about children. Children, there's a big difference between a person, a child who's hungry, and a child who has an empty stomach. So when a child has an empty stomach, the child is able to concentrate in a better manner. He or she can put up his hard work, her hard work, to studies in a better manner. So that was the only message that I wanted to give. So when our young learners, maybe some of you are parents and we are facilitators, we need to advise to our children that when you're on your table of study table, you need to be empty stomach, not hungry, empty stomach. So that was the message. Anyways, with this, sir, do I have some more time? We have. All right. So can I have one more question quickly?
Yeah, sure.
So now this is a rapid fire one. All right. So there's this one very interesting question I had. This question I would like to ask you, sir.
Yeah.
What could be the developmental activities for multicultural education in preschools? And how do you think it can be evaluated? I'm talking about developmental activities.
Okay. That's a tough question to answer though. Yeah, but
You
I'll
may
take
take
it.
your time, sir.
Yeah, no, I'll take it and I'll answer it right away, because how you break down the...
I mean, not more. And all of us will have this question answered.
Yeah. So how you break the stereotypes of the child? Like in this room sitting right now, we have broken a lot of stereotypes we had, or we took in new knowledge and we'll be walking out with that. So every day in the classroom, if you do this, if you break the stereotypes and every day a new connection is formed in the brain, I believe that is the best possible evaluation. Because then you are not evaluating anything, you are just focusing on creating the new. And when we are creating the new, the old will get replenished and get away from the system. So for doing that, what you could do is you could ask one child to lead. That's what I said earlier as well. One child to lead a classroom, and then you have 30 leaders and 30 different things will come out and 30 different exposures will come out. And that is how the more we discuss the differences in the classroom, like when a child is upset, the whole classroom gives him that attention that he deserves or he requires to cope up that failure. You know, we all have bad days. So just coping up with that bad days will ensure that, you know, we have a healthy environment and learning outcomes.
Okay, ma'am. If I'm not, I'm changing my question just to shorten it. How could we relate the developmental activities in a preschool classroom with the evaluation aspect of it? The developmental activities with respect to evaluation and assessment.
It all depends on the presentation. Suppose it's an activity given to the child. Ask the child to reflect on it, and then the teacher can evaluate it. It all depends on what the teacher apprehends from the reflection of the child. As I said earlier also, it can be a presentation, it can just be a drawing, it can be an outline of a drawing, it can even be a color used on a sheet of paper, it can also be a blank paper submitted. It all depends on how the child reflects it, and using that, teacher needs to evaluate, especially in a preschool. Very few preschoolers can communicate, can talk about it, but most of them can definitely represent it.
What a wonderful answer. Did we gauge what ma'am tried to say? She wanted to say that the role of early childhood educator is to watch, monitor. The formal assessments are then not needed. If you know your child, if you know what activities he or she performs, then we don't need any formal assessment. Thank you, ma'am. All right, the next question is, yes, ma'am, to you. How does the quality of preschool affect the children of vulnerable groups such as migrants, cultural minorities, and those from disadvantaged background?
Can you repeat the question, please, ma'am?
How does quality of preschools affect the children of vulnerable groups such as migrants, cultural minorities, and those from disadvantaged backgrounds?
Good question. I have already spoken about it, in fact, my previous discussion as well. When we talk about the context, so the children, those who are from the vulnerable background or from the migrant or tribal areas even for that matter, for them the situation could be pretty different what is happening in the urban settings. So in that case, teacher has to play the role, or the educator has to play the role of a coach and a role model over there. The challenges can be many. It can start from the eating habits to day-to-day routine, to working patterns, to source of income, socioeconomic status, everything. Children would not realize it. But we educators have to be very particular that there is a lot of cohesiveness within the group and there is no disparity being created on that. So eventually when these children will grow up as adults or maybe as senior students, they will not have that kind of inferiority complex over there. So we educators have to play a significant role over here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Ma'am, when we talk about the minorities, or we talk about people who, we are basically talking about the RTE group. Right? When we are talking about this RTE group, I basically, when these children enter these schools, they see a different environment altogether. So first and foremost, it's very important for each educator to make the children feel comfortable because they feel out of place. They feel a disconnect. They are apprehensive about the acceptance. They feel we'll not be accepted. We are different. And I'm talking about the real RTE cases here. Not the artificial ones, the real RTE cases. They feel that we'll not be accepted because we are not rich. We don't possess beautiful bags like them. We don't have a fancy pencil box. Our lunch boxes do not have that fancy food stuff. So primarily, it's the work of the educator to first settle the unsettled nerves of these children. Make them feel comfortable and make the class prepared for these children. Like for example, although this does not connect to these children, but I would just like to just explain the point across. In my school, we had a child whose limbs had a concern. So when we took admission of such a child in this school, we first educated our students before, 1 or 2 days before the child was supposed to join. We said, you have a friend who's coming and he may need help at times. And when we sensitized our children, the kind of love and receptivity they gave to this child was beautiful. One child would wait back till the time an auntie would come and help him. So that is the same thing we are supposed to do with these children also. Sensitize our children and tell them that we need to involve them because they may rise up to become some important person in the future like you. You're privileged, they are not, but that does not mean they don't have the brains. And once this sensitivity is drawn, Believe me, there is no disparity. We adults set that disparity. Like it or we don't, children don't have this disparity in their mind. Parents say, watchman के बच्चे के साथ क्यों खेल रहे हो? बाई के बच्चे के साथ क्यों खेल रहे हो? Children don't differentiate. So if we don't teach them this differentiation, they will not. And the more we sensitize them, they would be more accepting. Thank you.
I wish to add one point, ma'am, with your permission. So just one thing I remembered. My son, when he was in 2nd or 3rd grade, see, we mothers are very, very ambitious and we always say, child, don't sit with bad children. Stay in the company of good children. And my 7 years, 8 years old child answered me, Mama, अगर सारे बच्चे अच्छे बच्चों को ढूंढेंगे तो बुरों को अच्छा कौन बनाएगा एंड हाउ कैन वी फाइंड आउट हु इज गुड एंड बैड मेरे लिए सारे बच्चे अच्छे हैं ऑल आर वेरी गुड सो दिस इज व्हाट आई वांट टू कन्वे राइट नाउ विशाखा मैम राइटली सेड सेंसिटिविटी we parents sometimes try to analyze or label or brand or mark the things, but children don't have that. And if we continue doing the same thing what children are thinking, that will change our psyche as well as adults. Thank you so much.
I don't know how many of you watch those serials of, the Mahabharata and Ramayana and similar serials. So one such serial I was watching, I got some time. So there I saw, not remembering his name. So one character, he said, every person, that's our culture, every person by birth, he's born good, yes. He or she doesn't have a religion or a level where he's a higher or a lower. It's by the action, कर्म के हिसाब से आदमी की जाति निर्धारित होती है, is what was said in that serial. So it is not by birth that we are Kshatriyas or we are Brahmins and हमारे बच्चे वॉचमैन के बच्चों के साथ नहीं खेलने चाहिए. So that is not the thing. Let us understand that is not our culture. अब वो कहाँ से आ गया ये, that we have to analyze and we'll have to get rid of it. But initially we had this belief. Everybody by birth is equal. And by the action and the thought process and the experiences, what a person shapes up to, it decides his, jati and other things. Anyways, I'm not here to discuss more on this.
If you
I believe we are diverting our topic.
Yeah, just one line. We as teachers, I would say this in Hindi, हमें एकलव्य का अंगूठा नहीं काटना है अर्जुन के लिए.
Absolutely. So with this, general question to all of you, just I think we have some more time, 5-7 minutes.
No, you asked them.
We don't have time? Wrap in 2 minutes? Just one question. See, as a principal, we all must have experienced, I'm sure, the 2 years of time that we had. Most of our preschoolers, when they are back to school after nursery, they probably didn't go to school. And they are back to school in senior KG. Right? Or in grade 1. So these children, initially they are identified as, this child is a slow learner. He has some learning difficulty. He is not able to communicate. So this was the major challenge which all of us faced. Well, the child was not learning deficient. The child did not have any issues. The only problem is the child could not mingle. The child did not get the right environment. So my question to all of you quickly, how did you cater to this problem? How did you come up with positive solution to this problem? One line only. We don't have much time.
So I would go first. Making others and the child accept that it's okay to be abnormal or not be normal with the society that is how we can address this issue.
Here we had to create the multicultural learning environment. We had to start on that note because children were out of the house after 2 years. It's a long gap for this age group because their biased mind had already started working, being biased. It was a difficult situation. One-liner answer can't be beyond this.
I need
Thank you.
more time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so these 2 years of gap, and sometimes probably children have never visited the school. We tried to tell teachers, please start observing children, talk more to parents. Lot of interactions, PTMs, online, offline happened, and we invited parents to talk about their needs and expectations because children were under direct supervision of their own parents. We were not able to interact.
One
with
line,
them.
ma'am.
All right, so I'll stick to one line. Teachers and parents were told to keep cool. Keep calm. Give them some time.
Well, if you ask me, I feel parents need to be convinced for early intervention by the experts, the child, the clinical psychologist or the special educators. That would help. And the parents should be made to accept that.
Ma'am, I would beg to differ here. Even I beg to differ here. Because the child may not may have a problem. It's the gap. Like in my school for 6 months, I taught them the previous the topics. The basics were strengthened and then they were brought to this present class. Give them time. Let them first come out of the situation. I really felt bad for class 1 and class 3. Class 3 was in senior KG. And now they're coming to class 3 and they're supposed to study formal schooling.
And so many subjects.
Yes.
When I say early intervention, it could speed up, ma'am. It
Yes.
could speed up to the gap that they have missed on, which
Right.
nobody will otherwise understand.
Right.
But the special educators.
So, first, the parents and teachers need to pacify, give children some time, give them a time period. Wait for this long, and then we'll see if others are able to come up, and a particular child or a few children not able to come up to that mark, then intervention.
Thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you, my panel members. It was, I believe, a great discussion.
A very big round of applause for this wonderful panel. I hope you all enjoyed the activities, which is much needed after the lunch break. So right now, I'd like to invite Sandeep Soni, Regional Head, Singhania Education Services, on the stage to please come and give token of memento to our panelist. Can we have a round of applause for sir, please? Rashmi P. Singh, CEO, Poddar Brio International School, Badlapur. A big round of applause for ma'am for curating this panel so well. Vishakha Gupta, Principal, Bacon High School and Junior College, Pune. Dr. Bindu Saini, Principal, SB Patil, Public School, Pune. Swati Aru, Principal, Blossom Public School, Pune. Harshad Tathed, Academic Head, Priyadarshani School, Pimpri-Chinchwad. A very big round of applause for sir, please. Can we have a group picture also?